Here's what sparked earlier on. So it had been sparking, melting this round here. This is what a loose connection can do. It's lucky that it didn't actually start a fire. I'm converting a 14-foot U-Haul box truck into a living and working space. If you've been watching the last few videos, you'll see how much trouble I've had with things working. Since I got my air conditioning mini split installed, and I've seen how much power it does draw, I have to install it now. I need to make some space for it. This is how it looks. This is my power distribution. That's my breaker. This is my battery. It needs to be tidied up. I need to have a second battery. I'm going to talk about what I need to do in order to prep for the second battery. The other main thing that I would like to do is this breaker, I want to replace it with a proper fuse and a disconnect switch as well. All of this needs to be tidied up, and I would like it all in less space. If I can get all of this onto the back, then I can have the two batteries here and here. I could have a shelf above the batteries so nothing can fall on the connectors. So the main takeaway from this is I would like to get this tidied and neat and safe above all else. So I need to do a lot of new wiring. I also need to calibrate the battery monitor as well. So I'm going to charge up both batteries to full so that I can mark on here that it's a full charge, and then I'm going to drain them all the way down to empty so that I can mark empty points as well. And that way this will be fully calibrated and will show me how much capacity I have on both my batteries at once. I have my two batteries. I have pre-made cable to join them, but on the positive, I'm going to make a separate cable with a breaker on it. Equalizing batteries, which is what I'm just about to do. I'm going to put a breaker on the positive. Each battery has its own charge. This one has like 30.1 volts. This brand new one has 29.1 volts. They're running at two different charge levels. What is suggested so that they have a long life is that you equalize them so they run at the same level. The way that you equalize them is you connect them in parallel. So positive to positive, negative to negative, and that shares the load essentially. I want to use a breaker. If there's a breaker in between, the cables will be connected and this, so the spark that would happen here. And if there's any problem, I've got an easy way of breaking the connection. So it's my emergency switch and my safety switch. So that's what we're going to do now. These are now doing whatever they're doing. They're equalizing. I'm going to leave them. So the other week I noticed that my voltage was dropping and I couldn't figure out what it was. When I did a little bit of an inspection, I saw that the negative that was on here was quite wide and quite loose. The nut itself was quite loose. I tightened it up and that seemed to solve it. But what I didn't notice is that because it was a loose connection, it had been sparking, melting this round here. This is what a loose connection can do. It's lucky that it didn't actually start a fire. Look at this. This is destroyed. Compare it to this one. It's pretty significant. I've just ordered myself a brand new one of these now with a bit more knowledge, knowing that something just as simple as having it too wide is going to cause real problems, and making sure that all of your terminals and connections are tight is obviously really crucial to avoid this situation happening. Don't cheap out on connectors and make sure that the terminals fit in and you're tightening them up fully. Yeah. Wow. Okay, I think that I've got it figured out. Now, my two positive and negative bus bars have to be over here because of the length of the cable coming through here is quite short. So I do have to keep it to the very right. This is my shunt, which measures the load on the battery. I get a bit nervous about having these two so close, so I'll probably maybe create something here, but they do also have these things to stop it. Short circuits, essentially. But I'm going to have negative here, positive here, then this is going to go to my shunt, and this end of the shunt goes to the battery, the negative of the battery, which is going to be the second battery. So that needs to be all the way on this side. Then for the positive, we've got a positive that goes around here from the inverter. So positive wire from the inverter. Then the battery needs to go through that as well. So I'm also going to connect a second one onto here, over to the fuse. And then that fuse is going to be connected to the battery disconnect switch. And then that battery disconnect switch is going to be to the positive terminal on the battery one. So I've got two batteries that are next to each other, and then they're going to be connected in parallel. And then everything else distributed out to here. Here is going to be for my AC power. My AC power breakers are going to be here. Nothing is going to be coming up through the floor, up through here like it was in the past. It's all going to be coming through this hole, cut off, because I don't need it. It's going to be screwed into that bar, that brace back there. I'm going to screw it in multiple times there. Obviously, this is going to get replaced. I've just ordered a new one, which is going to come tomorrow. But for now, what I can do is I can screw in this stuff, especially the big boy cables, these ones, get them cut and crimped and tight so that they are very, very secure. Okay, time to crack on. Okay, I am back at it today. I'm going to reconnect these batteries again to give a few more hours of equalization while I finish off getting my electrical circuit done. I'm going to connect the new battery and the old battery up to the power. This is the way that I left it, mainly because of this damaged unit. So thankfully with Amazon, I have a replacement unit overnight that arrived this morning. And also one awesome thing is this Bluetti has been running my fridge hours, basically the entire night, and it still has 1% left, which makes me super happy that it's all night and I didn't have to worry about it. To me, they look pretty good. All of the cables just feel like nothing is loose or wobbly, and everything will be pinned down as well. Next is just making sure that all of the 24 and 12 volt stuff is in the same place as well. And then just pull all the cables through and screw it in. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. Now this is a lot more solid. This back plate is solid. Now this is the AC breaker. I need to change it because obviously it's not quite fitting in. So this is the bus bar for the AC power. I'm going to make these shorter so that it can fit there. I've got my breakers, fuse, disconnect. So one thing that just happened as I do the wires, connecting the solar disconnect here, and this is the solar coming through this black wire, this red wire. I needed to extend the cords out a little bit further so that I could reach it over to this new disconnect over here. So far I've been safe. What I just did is this black cable, this red cable were part of just a single cable together. So I split it down the middle, and then as I was measuring it to figure out how to get it in here, I put the cable back together next to each other and I snipped it with my cable clippers. This is live solar, right? So I snipped it, put a metal piece in between, and created a short circuit between the two. I melted the ends of the cables. They're completely black. I'm going to keep hold of one of these cables. I'm glad that I'm wearing my eye protection and my rubber gloves. I still make mistakes like that. Let's get it connected to the breaker as soon as possible so it's at least safe. So now my solar disconnect is hooked up. The cable management will be part of the end point of all of this. Now it's moving on to this rat's nest of cables. And once I get all of these in place, then I can start using cable ties and pinning cables up against the backboard. Power coming from solar, going into the inverter over there, going back through the AC into this one little breaker here, which is on, into this outlet in the kitchen, charging this. Technically I could use this straight from my AC if I wanted to, but I would just like to get this charged up in the meantime. That's good. What I'm going to do right now is, at the very least, cut the remaining cables to the right lengths, and then by the time I do that, this will be charged and I can turn off the electricity again and carry on with what I'm doing. I just don't want to work on a live circuit. Okay, time to crack on. Okay, getting closer. All of this is at least grouped together. Same for the 12 volt. There's a couple of blank ones on here. I've got my disconnects here, all on the left-hand side. I've got my battery disconnect here. I've got my AC breakers. I've got my solar breaker here as well. And then I've got my bus bars going to my inverter as well as my shunt. I've got my shunt here that needs to be connected to the battery. I've got my battery disconnect that needs to be connected to the battery. But for now, this is at 80%. And as long as when it's at 80% it works and it's safe, that for me is good enough, because I need to connect my battery up and get that figured out. That is my next step. So now I have my two batteries that are equalized. I'm going to move these batteries over towards my electronics. So what we're doing now is we have battery 1, battery 2. We have the connection, the battery to go to the breaker. Then we have the connection to go to the shunt, and then we have the battery to battery, positive to positive with a breaker on it, and then I've got the negative to negative as well. I think I just need to make sure that I know the right order to put everything together on. I think we're in a good place. Battery. Okay, this is a good sign. And turn on the solar. Now the inverter is on. Inverter is on. You can see it's pink because it's doing the solar. And then let's see what is going on everywhere else. Now the inverter is on. Okay, I'm happy with this as long as I have power and the numbers are going up. Okay, so in summary, for the past 3 days, on and off, I have moved this from here. I've moved and tidied all of this up, despite how it looks. I've added in a fuse, a real fuse. I've added in my battery disconnect here. I've added in an extra battery. So I have double the capacity, and I've wired them in parallel as well. That is now set up. I'll probably redo this back cable and actually make it a little bit shorter so I can move this battery back, and maybe even redo these two cables just so they're neat. Now I can run my AC because it is hot as hell right now. Big project done. So for now, I am clocking out. I did just have a spark. It seemed to come from the negative bus bar. I've just turned everything off, just disconnected everything. Yeah, it seemed to come from the negative bus bar, or at least somewhere over on this side. I did turn on the AC. I think maybe one of these connections is loose. So what follows is approximately 2 hours of me deconstructing, trying to figure out what went wrong, going step by step through my thought process and trying to diagnose what that spark was, because I saw a spark, but I didn't know what it was. So I won't put you through 2 hours of me just talking to the camera on stuff that only really I know what I'm talking about, because it's my setup. So it won't be relevant to anyone. Ultimately, if something like this happens, there's one thing that I've learned in all of this, whether it's a weird sound or a weird patch of water or a weird spark or something like that, if something isn't right, I can guarantee you that if you don't figure out exactly what it is and address it, it will get worse. So if something's just weird with it, figure it out as soon as you can, because otherwise it will make itself known to you in a bigger way later on. So this is me diagnosing everything, going troubleshooting and finding out exactly what it is. So eventually I found the culprit, and it was the shunt. It was the shunt which detects the battery level. The connection for it was loose, just like the loose wire earlier on. So because that connection was loose, it melted the bolt that it puts on, and that's what created the spark. So that bolt is now damaged and has to be replaced. But it took me 2 hours to figure that out. And it made me realize how important it is to triple check every single connection. Because if it's not tight, then stuff like this can happen. And obviously that's dangerous. So this is what I'm learning in this whole process, is the importance of all of these things. So we found the culprit. It was the shunt that sparked earlier on. I know what to do I'm going to get my battery set up the way that they were before, and I think I'll be able to have power tonight. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Let's get that step again forward. Everything's working. It was definitely the shunt. I am going to order the same one. Take a look. Oh, the shunt itself is actually melted. It has a melty bit on it. Okay. I'm going to tighten these. I'm going to tighten the nuts on the batteries to make sure that everything is safe, and then I'm gonna go to bed because I'm tired. It's late. So for now, I am clocking out.